Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, everybody, I am back. Good to be back. And I do want to switch gears, and I actually want to take a deeper dive into one of the big games from Saturday. And I obviously just spent a ton of time talking about each of them. We're not going to go game by game again. But while there were a lot of great games of college basketball on Saturday, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Auburn, Tennessee, whoever, Purdue, Michigan State, on and on, Baylor, Kansas, there was one game that there was something that happened to me that I think is a bigger metaphor for a bigger picture topic in college basketball that I want to discuss, and that was what happened with the Kentucky-Arkansas game, okay? And so what I don't want to do is spend the next few minutes breaking down that game. I just broke it down from both perspectives. I really broke it down from the Kentucky perspective a minute ago. I am not worried about Kentucky because they lost to a top 15 team on the road in Arkansas in one of the most hostile environments in college basketball. In some ways, I think it's actually, you got to wake up feeling better about being a Kentucky fan, saying that was one of the best performances we've had all year. Give us our guards, get us healthy, get us to March. We're going to be fine. I also don't want to spend a ton of time talking about Arkansas because I feel like I did that after the Auburn game, right? I did the bigger picture. This is what it means for Arkansas. This is how far they've come. This is why Coach Muss is incredible, blah, 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 blah. And I am going to talk about Coach Muss a little bit later. But in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to talk about something that I believe is actually a bigger picture metaphor for something that is changing in college sports. And I noticed it while watching this Arkansas-Kentucky game. It's something that hasn't happened, it hasn't been kind of common practice since I've started watching college sports. It isn't something that I think has really started to develop only until the last 2, 3, 4 years. But I saw something in that game that I think in the bigger picture is something really cool, a groundswell that is happening in college sports. And so let me explain. And before I do, let me give you some context as to how I came up kind of with this idea and kind of this segment as a whole. So a few days ago, I was listening to one of Colin Cowherd's podcasts, and if you listen to this show, you obviously know I have a great deal of respect for Colin. I've been on his show. I know him a little bit. Wouldn't claim he's a friend or anything like that, but I think he's really good at what he does. I know enough people that have worked for him. I know how hard he works, and I just think he's great at what he does. And so about 3-4 days ago, I'm listening to one of his podcasts, and he has Ryan Russillo on. Ryan Russillo from The Ringer, was on ESPN forever, whatever. And he asked Ryan Russillo, he says, what is your favorite thing about sports in 2022 that is different from, say, when you were growing up watching as a kid? And Colin kind of listed his favorite thing, which I'm going to get to my favorite thing in a minute. But Colin's favorite thing was pretty straightforward. He said, look, I love this new era of front office executives and GMs and coaches at the professional level that are fearless in how they run things, right? There was a way to do things in the NFL for 30, 40, 50 years, and all of a sudden that has been flipped on its head. You have the Los Angeles Rams that have basically said, we don't care about first-round picks. Give me Jalen Ramsey. Give me Odell Beckham. Give me Matt Stafford. We'll trade whatever. We can't worry about some cornerback from Abilene Christian that we might get in the early second round or late first round when we can get a difference-making quarterback or the best corner in the league in Jalen Ramsey or whatever. Same in basketball, right? It used to be you can't give up first-round picks. Now it's like, I can get Kawhi Leonard. Here's 3 of them. I can get Anthony Davis. Here's 4 of them. No big deal. And so Colin said that's kind of what his favorite thing is in sports right now. And I was kind of sitting there thinking, okay, so what is my favorite thing about college sports? And ironically, I think my favorite thing about sports in general. And I think ironically, my favorite thing is very similar to Colin's favorite thing, but just at the college sports level. And what I love about college sports, the thing that has changed the most in my life in college sports is the fearlessness and aggressiveness with which college athletics departments now run themselves. The idea that being good is no longer good enough, that being okay is no longer acceptable, that if we're doing this, we are competing at the single highest level that we possibly can, and if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, we're going to put the money in, we're going to hire the right guys. That is my favorite change of college sports because I don't believe that that has been the case for most of what I watch. And so it's interesting because I actually talked about this a little bit on last Monday's show when we were talking about the expanded college football playoff. I said, look, I think there's all these people that think, oh, we just expand the playoff, it solves college football's problems. No, it doesn't. Ole Miss getting destroyed by Alabama doesn't fix college football's problems. Neither does it for Michigan State, Pitt, whoever would have made it this year. But what I did tell you was the best thing for college football and for the health of college football has already happened. It's a school like Miami let's start with USC. School like USC deciding, you know what? We're tired of just being okay. We're tired of being 8-4. We're tired of being 9-3 because we know that we can be 12-0, 13-0 playing for college football playoff spots. Let's fire Clay Helton. Let's pay him what it takes to get rid of him, and let's do whatever we can to get the best coach we possibly can, and they did it with Lincoln Riley. Is it going to work out with Lincoln Riley? I don't know. But at the same time, I love the fearlessness with which USC made that decision. It's the same with Miami. Mario Cristobal. I don't know if it's going to work for Mario Cristobal at Miami, but there was like a 15-year track record where Miami was just like, doesn't really matter who coaches us. We're Miami. We'll be fine. And then you realize, no, it's not. It's not going to work if you're Manny Diaz. It's not going to work if you're Randy Shannon. It's not going to work if you're Al Golden. Go get the best coach, the biggest name, the guy with the most success, the guy from the area, the guy that played at the school. Let's see if Mario Cristobal works, and let's pay what it takes to get him here. And so this is a long way for me to get to Arkansas basketball. But I think at the college basketball level, there is no better example of that mindset than what we've seen at Arkansas. And while I think we need to credit Eric Musselman, who I just discussed, and we'll talk about him in a minute, while we need to credit J.D. Note, who was a star, while we need to credit Justin Smith and Jalen Tate and Moses Moody and all these guys that were on the team last year, while we need to credit Mason Jones, who was there the year before, I believe that there is one man that probably isn't getting enough credit for the success of Arkansas basketball, and that is their AD, Hunter Yurachek. And to be clear, I don't know Hunter Yurachek. I've never met him. I'm not doing this segment as a favor to him. But what I love is what he did about 4 years ago, okay? So about 4 years ago, Mike Anderson is the head coach at Arkansas. And things are going, by any stretch of the imagination, pretty good. Like I just did the Larry David, pretty good, pretty good. I don't know if it was pretty good, but it was like pretty good. It was okay. Mike Anderson was there for 8 years. He won a lot of games. And this isn't a criticism of Mike Anderson. It's not a tear down Mike Anderson, because Mike Anderson was kind of from the glory days under Nolan Richardson. And so Mike Anderson had a pretty good run at Arkansas. He was there 8 years. It took him 4 years to get to the NCAA tournament. But over his final 5 years, Arkansas made 3 NCAA tournaments and an NIT. 2015, they make the round of 32. 2016, they missed the NCAA tournament. 2018, they make the round of 32. 2018, they make the round of 64. 2019, they make the NIT. And so as an outsider to Arkansas basketball, I think most of us, and I'm going to include myself, I thought that's pretty good. 3 tournaments in 5 years, whatever. It's Arkansas, who cares, whatever. But at the same time, Hunter Yurachek, the AD, said, no, that's not good enough. And Arkansas fans, to your credit, you said, no, that is not good enough. We are Arkansas. We won a national championship in 1994. We made a Final Four in 95. We've made other Final Fours before that. We have seen what Arkansas basketball can be operating at its highest level. And I am sorry, but no. What is going on at Arkansas under Mike Anderson is not acceptable. Doesn't make him a bad human being. Doesn't make him a bad guy. In a lot of ways, he was a great steward for the program at that time. Again, he played under Nolan Richardson, coached under Nolan Richardson at Arkansas, and he was good. He was fine. But 3 NCAA tournaments in 5 years, 0 Sweet 16, 0 Elite 8, 0 Final Fours, 0 national championships, obviously, is not good enough. And so 3 off seasons ago, Hunter Yurachek sat down with Mike Anderson and said, look, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done, but we expect more from this program, and we need to be great. And we can be great, and there's no excuse for us not to be great, and so we are going to go in another direction. And my understanding about that meeting, and this is just secondhand knowledge that I've heard, was that Hunter Yurachek did go to Mike Anderson and said, look, we believe we can be better. What are you going to do to fix it? And Mike Anderson seemed to be content with 3 tournaments in 5 years. Hunter Yurachek says it's not good enough, and so he goes out and gets Eric Musselman. And by the way, I'll say this, I get a lot of stuff wrong, but the day Eric Musselman was hired, you can find the videos and the podcasts and the Instagram posts and the Periscopes at the time. And I remember a friend of mine, Dorian Kraft, who covered Arkansas at the time, I did her TV show. And I said, this is a home run. This is the guy. This is the guy that Arkansas fans have been waiting for, and we have seen it over the last 3 years, and it was on full display Saturday, okay? So this isn't an Arkansas-Kentucky breakdown, but it is to say that for years, Arkansas believed that they should be better. They held themselves to a higher standard. They said, we have all the resources, we have all the facilities, we have great high school players, we'll pay whatever, we'll do whatever, but we expect more from our team and from our program. Let's go out and get a guy that can do that. And what we saw on Saturday was they have found that guy, and now we all, the outsiders, myself included, get to see what Arkansas is operating at the highest level of college basketball. We saw just an insanely passionate fan base. We saw 2-3 weeks ago where they're camping out for days at a time to get ready for that Auburn game. We saw all the craziness of the student section, the insanity. We saw, by the way, the product on the court where Arkansas once again has a team that is good enough to win a national championship. And the crazy part is there is no reason to think that it's going to slow down. Eric Musselman has the number 2 recruiting class in the country coming in next year. So we're going to talk about Coach Muss in a minute. But part of the success of Arkansas basketball right now absolutely has to go to Hunter Yurachek, the AD of Arkansas, because he looked in the mirror and he said, I'm here. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I only get one shot at being an SEC AD, and I am not going to accept being okay. Okay is not good enough. Being good is not good enough. And so much credit to Hunter Yurachek for what he has done. Really quickly, I need to talk about Coach Muss, right? And every time I talk about Coach Muss, you just like because he's on your podcast. And I think you guys and girls know me well enough to know, like, if I didn't think a guy was capable of doing the job, I don't care if he's on my podcast or not. I'd criticize him. I'd say he's not good enough. But as I watch Arkansas and I watch how this program has developed and evolved, and I watch what Eric Musselman is doing in only year 3 in this program, I had a thought the other day. I actually tweeted this after the Tennessee game, and I think it's confirmed. To me, Eric Musselman is officially, he's definitively, I don't even think it's up for debate, the most underrated coach in college basketball. And I think we're starting to creep up on the territory. I think when you put together all of it, X's and O's, game day, planning, prep, recruiting, transfer portal recruiting, high school recruiting, whatever it is, I think we're getting to the point where we got to start talking about this guy as a top 5 coach in college basketball. It sounds crazy, but hear me out. Because here's the thing. If you just look at Coach Muss's track record and his resume over the last 5 years, I mean, it's borderline incredible, right? First of all, goes to Nevada. Nevada was the worst team in the Mountain West the year before he got there. Year 1, he wins 24 games. By year 3, he takes Nevada to the Sweet 16, the freaking Nevada Wolfpack. And by year 4, they start the season in the top 10 with Cody and Caleb Martin. I mean, Nevada basketball started in the top 10 under Eric Musselman. That's absolutely incredible. From there, you move on. By the way, Nevada has completely fallen apart, the way I told you it would on this podcast under Steve Alford, by the way. He leaves Nevada. The program completely falls apart. They're in like 6th, 7th, 8th place in the in the Mountain West. But look at what Eric Musselman has done since he's gotten to Arkansas. And so when I say he's the most underrated coach, let me just throw out some facts for you, some facts and figures. First of all, I say it all the time, 2019, 2020, his first year, his best player, Isaiah Todd. Mason Jones was the best player on that team. Isaiah Todd was the best professional, best pro prospect. And Isaiah Todd gets hurt. If Isaiah Todd doesn't get hurt, Arkansas is very comfortably in the NCAA tournament. They were on the bubble when the tournament was canceled. Year 2, last year, Arkansas makes an Elite 8, okay? Arkansas made an Elite 8 last year for the first time since 1994. So first of all, that in and of itself is like borderline incredible. Guy comes in, year 2, Elite 8, first time in 27 years at that point. Beyond that, what's more impressive to me is what he has done this season, okay? Because you can write off last year as a fluke, or it was COVID, or you got hot late, or you did this, or you did that, or whatever. Well, now look at 2022. Arkansas has won 13 of its last 14. They had, before the loss to Alabama a few weeks ago, an 8-game SEC win streak, which I don't think can be undersold. Arkansas, you want a stat? How about this for stat? Arkansas had not had an 8-game win streak in the SEC since 1994 during that championship run, okay? Hadn't had one. They now have 8-game SEC win streaks twice in 3 years under Eric Musselman. They had one late last year and they had one late this year. On top of that, you look at the fact that now with the Kentucky win, and this is not a criticism of Kentucky. If they're at full strength, they're awesome. They can beat anybody. But with the Kentucky win, Arkansas is now 8-1 in their last 9 games against top 25 teams in the AP. They've beaten the number 1 team in the SEC standings at home. That was the Auburn Tigers. They beat the number 2 team, Kentucky. They're actually tied with Kentucky, so Kentucky might technically be 3 at this point. They beat Tennessee at home. So the top 4 teams, there are 4 clear-cut, definitive best teams in the SEC. Arkansas has beaten all 3 of them, 3-0 against those teams. And so when I look at what Coach Muss has done, and oh, by the way, I didn't even mention, he's proven to be a great recruiter. He recruits the portal. I think the one thing that he does that he doesn't get enough appreciation for, he develops transfers. I think we think of these transfers as plug-and-play guys, as guys that you come in for 1 year, you're a star, and you leave. Well, J.D. Notae, this is his 3rd year in the program. Transfers from Jacksonville. I'll be honest, I had never heard of him. Sits out as a redshirt. Last year, he's a 6th man. This year, he's probably the 2nd best player in the SEC besides Oscar Tshiebwe. So I think there's that part of it. And now he's recruiting at an elite high school level. 2 McDonald's All-Americans in this high school class, Jordan Walsh and Nick Smith Jr. Obviously brought in Moses Moody last year. A couple guys also from that recruiting class, top 100 players. KK Robinson, who's still on the team, he's been banged up. Jalen Williams and Devo Davis, who are the backbone of this team as well. And so when I look at Eric Musselman, I'm going to get off this. We're going to go to Syracuse. We're going to go to Art Briles. We'll wrap the show. But I just sit there and say, just think about where we are in college basketball. Think where we are with this one-time transfer stuff, with NIL, with the fact that all of these rosters are going to flip over every single year. Think about what Eric Musselman has done about 5-6 years as a Division I head coach dating back to Nevada, where he went to the Sweet 16, where he had a top 10 team. Now think about what he's doing at Arkansas. They made an Elite 8 2 years ago. Last year, they're in position to probably be a top 2-3 seed again this year. And think about where they could be as they continue to recruit at an elite level. And I sit there and I start to say, name me guys that are the more complete package than Eric Musselman, right? Like I said this on a radio show, and it blew somebody's mind. But like 5-6 years ago, right, who was the number 1 candidate every time a job opened up? It was pretty much Tony Bennett before he won a national championship at Virginia. And now I think we all kind of understand, like, look, okay, at the end of the day, Tony Bennett's not leaving Virginia. But for a long time, Tony Bennett was like the number 1 candidate for all of these jobs. Won a national championship, he's no longer a candidate. But I ask you this. Over the next 5 years, would you rather have Tony Bennett as a head coach, or would you rather have Eric Musselman as a head coach? Because I kind of believe that Tony Bennett, in the one-time transfer world, where guys don't want to sit out, where guys don't want to wait, where guys don't want a redshirt, where guys don't want to not play as freshmen and sophomores, I don't know if I want that guy. I do know I want Eric Musselman, who brings in transfers, who brings in high school players, whatever. So I'm off the topic. I didn't mean to make this a 15-minute Arkansas conversation, but I just give so much credit to the school for saying being good enough is not being good enough. And again, I think Coach Muss is one of the most underrated coaches in college basketball. So what I'll do, take a quick break, 2 more segments. The first